Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad IZZUDDIN AZMI and I'm from IM2453A. Background study. In the article chosen, the researcher focuses on the dietary identity that involve thought, feelings and behavior of individuals with respect to consuming in animal products that pertain to red meat, poultry, fish, egg and dairy. The framework of the study is firstly started with the developing a dietary identity questionnaire, the IQ, which is based on Rosenfeld and Burroughs' unified model of vegetarian identity. As we noted, dietary identity involves components of both personal and social identity. Focusing on individual dietary patterns, the researcher considers similarities and distinction with other people's dietary patterns. Secondly, a validation process was done on the DIQ item. Then an online survey of 3 samples of study was conducted in sample 1 and 2. Participants were recruited via Amazon Mechanical Turk, MTurk. The participants in study 1 are purposely to examine the factor structure. Meanwhile, the participants in study 2 are purposely conducting confirmatory factor analysis, CFA. Then the researcher proceed to examine the DIQ internal consistency, factor, intercorrelations and construct validity. Participants in study 3 were undergraduate students recruited with a large university in the Northeast United States who received cost extra credit for those taking the survey. All the respondents in the study were accessed 2 times, which is the baseline and after 2 weeks later. This is for evaluating the test refers to the DIQ. If the respondent complete the survey when 2 minutes or fail on the attention check, will be excluded from the analysis. On average, the respondent complete the survey in 14.81 minutes. Lastly, the research suggests the action for the use of the DIQ for future research.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is ALJUNID BINTI Syed HUSSIAN. So today I would like to present about the objective of this study. Okay, so the objective of this study is to develop and also validate a measure for assessing dietarian identity through Rosenfeld and also Burroughs 2017A, Unified Model of Vegetarian Identity Framework. Okay, so the dietary identity is included people's thoughts, feelings, and also behaviors with respect to eschewing animal products. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is ALEANA. Next, we move on to research question. In this study, the research questions are: first, to what extent are the thoughts of individuals with respect to consuming animal products? The second research question is: to what extent are the feelings of individuals with respect to consuming animal products? Third, to what extent are the behavior of individuals with respect to consuming animal products? Next, to what extent there are similarity in both personal and social identity with respect to consuming animal products. And lastly, the research question is: to what extent there are distinctions in both personal and social identity with respect to consuming animal products.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is IZZAT bin RIZAL. This is the conceptual framework of the study. As you can see, the 5 independent variables, which is personal motivation, strictness, moral motivation, private regard, and public regard. While the dependent variable is the self-assessment of the dietary pattern. So to summarize, the independent variable, which is the 5 motivation, influence the results of the dependent variables. Now let's see the hypothesis.
Now I'm going to talk about the hypothesis for significant relationship. Hypothesis 1, there is a significant relationship between personal motivation and self-assessment of dietarian identity. Hypothesis 2, there is a significant relationship between strictness and self-assessment of dietarian identity. Hypothesis 3, there is a significant relationship between moral motivation and self-assessment of dietarian identity. Hypothesis 4, there is a significant relationship between public regard and self-assessment of dietarian identity. Hypothesis 5, there is a significant relationship between private regard and self-assessment of dietarian identity. For the significant difference, Hypothesis 6, there is no significant difference between gender in self-assessment in dietary pattern. Accepted. Hypothesis 7, there is no significant difference between gender in personal motivation. Accepted. Hypothesis 8, there is no significant difference between gender in strictness. Accepted. Hypothesis 9, there is no significant difference between age in moral motivation. Accepted. Hypothesis 10, there is no significant difference between age in private regard. Accepted. Hypothesis 11, there is no significant difference between age in public regard. Accepted.
Assalamualaikum, my name is SYAFIQAH and I will explain about the population, sampling technique and the research instrument. A population is defined as a group of people who shares a characteristic or a set of characteristics. The population chosen for this study is the people among UiTM students in Puncak Dana, Selangor. The participants who participate in these studies are all from the Information System Management Program under the Information Management Faculty. The sampling selected from the chosen population is the students from the Information System Management IM245 program, specifically from students of groups IM2453A and IM2453B. The sampling technique used in these studies is random sampling, as everyone in both groups IM2453A and IM2453B have the chances to be selected in the studies. The research instrument for this study is survey that is performed by using a questionnaire that consists of 28 questions that can be completed within 5 to 10 minutes in the Google Forms. The type of questions that is used in the survey is the guided response type, which is multiple choice questions.
Okay, for next one, I will explain about descriptive statistic. Okay, as you can see in the table of descriptive statistic for personal motivation. Okay, for descriptive statistic of personal motivation, the mean will be 2.2400, while the standard deviation value is 0.55978 and the variance value is 0.313. Okay, next I will explain about the strictness in descriptive statistics. So for strictness, the mean will be 2.4275, while for the standard deviation value is 0.52389, and the last one will be the variance value will be 0.274. Okay, the third one will be moral motivation. Okay, in these moral motivations of descriptive statistic, the mean will be 2.5287, while for the standard value is 0.63020, and the last one will be variance value is 0.397. Okay, the fourth one will be public regard. Okay, in this descriptive statistic, the mean will be 2.6950. Okay, for the standard deviation value will be 0.63640, and also the variance value will be 0.405. So for the last one is private regard. Okay, in this descriptive statistic, the mean is 2.5250. Okay, while for standard deviation value is 0.60843, and the last one is the variance value will be 0.370. Thank you, and that's all from me.
This is the frequency of the study. To summarize, for gender there are more females than males respondents out of 160. Other than that, the age respondents result shows that there are more respondents that age between 21 to 23 years old, which is 118 out of 160, than respondents that age between 18 to 20 years old. Lastly, there are more respondents who are interested in dieting, which is 122 out of 160, than respondents who are not interested in dieting. So, in summary, there is a great deal of frequencies in females that ages between 21 to 23 years old that interested in dieting.
Based on the item total statistics table, if you look at the corrected item total correlation column, personal motivation computed item is the lowest. Therefore, if the item is removed from the scale, the overall reliability will increase. Based on the scale statistics table, the mean for all items is 12.4162, the variance is 3.857, and the standard deviation is 1.96382.
Next is significant difference. To find the significant difference, we are using independent t-test sample. The first hypothesis is there is no significant difference between gender in self-assessment in dietary pattern. Based on the t-test table diagram, it shows that there are no significant difference between gender in self-assessment in dietary pattern, and the hypothesis is accepted. The p-value for t-test equals 0.553, which more than 0.05 show that gender doesn't give effect to self-assessment. In the table also, we can see that they don't have many means differences with only negative 0.0118 between male and female. The second hypothesis is there is no significant difference between gender in strictness in dietary pattern. Based on the t-test table, it shows that there is no significant difference between gender in strictness in dietary pattern, and the hypothesis is accepted. The p-value for t-test equals 0.885, more than 0.05, show that gender doesn't give effect to strictness. In the table also, we can see that there don't have many means differences, only negative 0.01202 between male and female. The third hypothesis is there is no significant difference between age in public regard in dietary pattern. Based on the t-test table, it shows that there is no significant difference between age in public regard in dietary pattern, and the hypothesis is accepted. The p-value for t-test equals 0.156, more than 0.05, show that age doesn't give effect to public regard. In the table also, we can see that there don't have many means differences with only negative 0.14173 between the age 18 to 20 and 21 to 23.
From the table of correlation analysis above, it shows that the hypothesis is accepted. Based on the significant to tell, the p-value is less than 0.05 as formulated in SPSS. Therefore, the independent variable, which is personal motivation, and the dependent variable, which is self-assessment of dietary pattern, has a significant relationship. So it can be concluded that the null hypothesis is rejected and we accept the alternate hypothesis. Next, based on the hypothesis number 2, we want to know whether the strictness has a relationship between self-assessment dietary pattern. We believe the hypothesis is accepted based on the correlation analysis table above. Because as we know, the significant total data is showing 0.000, which is lower than 0.05. So we believe that there is a significant relationship between the strictness, which is the independent variable, and the self-assessment dietary pattern, which is the dependent variable. So we can conclude that the null hypothesis is rejected, and the alternate hypothesis is accepted. From the third hypothesis, which is we want to know whether the moral motivation has a relationship between self-assessment dietary pattern, which is the dependent variable. We believe that the hypothesis is accepted because the significant total shows that it was lower than 0.05, which is the data is 0.00. So we believe that the null hypothesis is rejected and we accept the alternate hypothesis. Fourth hypothesis, which is whether public regard has a relationship between self-assessment dietary pattern. After we study and look at the table of correlation analysis above, we can see that the p-value is less than 0.005 as formulated in the SPSS. So the public regard as the independent variable and the self-assessment dietary pattern as the dependent variable has a significant relationship. So we can conclude that the null hypothesis is rejected and the alternate hypothesis is accepted. Lastly, for the private regard hypothesis, we know that the p-value is less than 0.05 as formulated in the SPSS. So we believe that the private regard has a significant relationship between self-assessment dietary pattern. So we can conclude that the null hypothesis is rejected and we accept the alternate hypothesis.